My name is Terry Mitchell, and this clip is a record of some of the learning that occurred in my Year 1 class while I was on teaching practice at Kaiapoi North School in Term 3 2010. It covers a science unit we completed about the changes in spring. The unit covered the big understanding that in different seasons we experience many changes around us. While the unit covered the changes that occur across the seasons, the main focus was on the changes that occur in spring. The unit had been planned earlier at the conceptual level by the whole junior syndicate and was implemented separately by each classroom teacher using the inquiry method. This meant that I couldn't complete my unit planning until I had discovered what the students already knew and what they wanted to know about the topic. When we discussed the topic, the class found that they already knew quite a lot about spring, but what I soon discovered was that most of what they knew was very superficial. For example, that in spring we have daffodils and baby lambs, but not why these things happened and what causes the change in the seasons. We then discussed as a class what we wanted to discover about spring, and I was pleasantly surprised to get a wide range of general and specific questions emerging. I was already seeing some good personal involvement from the children. While there was some discussion on a wide range of questions, as a class the children settled on the following range of specific questions they wanted answered as part of the unit. How do seasons come? How do seasons change? How does winter change to spring? How does spring happen? Why do we need spring? Why do seasons come in order? Where do daffodils come from? How do plants grow? And why do butterflies come out? Next, we discussed as a class how we might be able to find answers to these questions. What resources might we use to help us? We agreed that books were going to be helpful, and there were already a range of books on display in the classroom that might be helpful. The children felt there might be some things on the computer that might help, and the internet might be a good place to start. The class also thought there might be some important information on posters that might help. They also agreed that maybe they could put some of the information they discovered on their own posters. The children knew that there would be videos that might be helpful, and many of them were aware of YouTube as a source of good information. The children all agreed that the library would be an excellent place to get information. They also thought there would be some people who could help. And they thought that teachers, the librarians, and their parents were all people who may know something about the topic and who might be useful in their inquiry. We then set up a chart to record all the information we learned as part of the unit. Once this was done, we were set to do the learning, and I was set to plan the unit. One of the things I wanted the children to discover was that in spring the weather is very changeable, with the weather often being different in the afternoon to what it was in the morning. Each child tracked the weather for a week and recorded what the weather was like at the beginning of the day and also at the end of the day using pictures or words. By the end of the week, the class was all able to identify the changeability of the weather in spring. We then booked the school's Inquiry Learning Centre, which was exciting for the young children, as this is normally only used by the big kids classes or for the syndicate assembly, and we watched a YouTube clip on the big screen about what causes Earth's seasons. The children were able to identify that the main cause of the seasons was the tilt of Earth's axis, and this concept was reinforced many times throughout the unit. We then ran our own experiment using a basketball on a tilt as a model for the Earth and a light bulb for the Sun. We were able to show how the Sun shines more directly on different places on Earth at different times during the year, as Earth moves around the Sun. I had prepared a poster for the class wall which showed this new information, and this was referred back to throughout the unit. Next, we wanted to look at how plants are affected by the season changes and why they need the seasonal changes. We looked at the life cycle of trees and also of more seasonal plants such as sunflowers. This information was also presented as posters, which were added to the classroom wall. We also discovered an answer to the question, where do daffodils come from? That is, how do they grow when we haven't planted any seeds? Next, we moved into expert groups, where the groups were tasked with using the resources available and finding answers to the following questions. What is the weather like in spring? What does it do? What do people do in spring, particularly in contrast to what they can do in winter? What happens to plants in spring? And what do animals do in spring that is different, and why? Each group then reported their findings back to the rest of the class. As part of the assessment of the children's learning, each child was given an activity sheet and a sheet of pictures and labels. The children were required to cut these out and reassemble the pictures to make their own poster about seasons. With their fine motor skills still developing, the cutting out part of the exercise became a challenge all on its own for some students. However, with some support, some prompting, and by referring to the posters on the classroom wall, all students were able to correctly assemble the activity sheet. This unit was run in tandem with a music unit that I completed with the class on Vivaldi's Four Seasons, with a focus on the concerto La Primavera, or Spring. This is the music that has been playing in the background of this clip, and the children learned that music is a non-verbal way of expressing ideas through sound. They found out that Vivaldi was expressing his ideas about spring in his native Venice, and they learnt how to express their ideas through music, and how to interpret music through movement. Both the science and the music units were very popular with the students, who appreciated the opportunity to take charge of their own learning.